They all look good, by the way, boys.
Naturally. Yeah, the best thing about podcasts is we can't see you, so it's
Perfect.
grand.
I've got dirty nails and I haven't brushed my hair.
So 3, 2,
Hold on,
1.
why are you introducing it now? We're already in with the interview.
And welcome back to Chasing the Racing. So episode 38, and we're delighted to be joined by Mr. John McGuinness. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, straight off the speedway bike with Dominic. Yeah, it was...
Quite impressive for his first go, wasn't he?
yeah, you know, I was like, do you fancy going? His usual Dominic style. Yeah. So I'm going to have to pull him back here a peg or two. But hey, he listened to me as well for the first time and actually got himself round in. They're going okay, yeah?
The thing is, believe it or not, I do a lot of listening, you know. I do a lot of talking, but I tell you what's going out more's coming in, so that's how it is, man.
No, I'm a big speedway fan, and I always like to just get it out now and again while we're up here. I've got my little track here, and
that is...
fair play. I've had a lot of people up here, all the big talk in the pub, and they won't put the leg over it, so you're a lot further down than
That's
a
because
lot
I'm
of
already
people.
pissed from the pub, John. He's just drove us up straight away. There you go.
So obviously a lovely pad here, and you've got with the speedway track and everything. Is this sort of the area that you grew up?
Well, to be honest, I'm sort of probably 10 minutes from where I grew up. I grew up in Morecambe and then in Heysham, where you get the ferry to the Isle of Man. So it was always easy for me to get to the TT. But yeah, I was born in Morecambe. I lived with my nana, who lived in Heysham. That's where I met the bride, Becky. And then we lived in Heysham for a long time. Moved back to Morecambe in 2002. We've only bought our first house together in 2002, and then we've moved up here in 2017. Which is, you know, if you said you was half an hour in the middle of nowhere, you wouldn't think any different. You know, we are just we're only 10 minutes from civilization, but we've, you know, very quiet. We've got 27 acres now and a few toys and bits and bobs, so it's good.
Here's a question now. Michael Jackson had his own little playground. What was it called?
Neverland,
what was it called?
Was it?
Neverland, right?
Is it?
Basically, you're like the Michael Jackson without touching kids. You know what I mean? So they are.
Well, I touched you, didn't I? When I was on the speedway bike, mate.
John, dreams come true, mate. Dreams come true. You know what I mean? If I'm going to get touched up by a living TT legend, that's how it should be done. There you are. So here we are, without touching kids, in Neverland of John McGuinness.
It's just, I don't know, all the years you've been growing up, you always wanted a bit of space. And, you know, every time I got a motocross bike out when I was a kid, there was a farmer with a shotgun at the end of the gate, you know. And
I can imagine being the same now, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, I've got my shotgun now because I'll be on my land. But it was always tough, wasn't it, to go anywhere to practice and play and things. And now you know, we're in a lovely position, you know. Dead sort of proud to be here, and, you know, we're all happy and it's all pretty well balanced up, and you know, it's just enjoy playing on anything. We've got quads, we've got motocross bikes, flat trackers, and all sorts of stuff here.
And so hold on. Let's repeat. He's got a shotgun. So if you're coming round, you're brave. They are.
I've got a Rover 25 as well. So in summer we've got a stock car for the field as well, which is quite a good crack. Yeah, because my granddad went blind about 90-year-old, so we had to give up the car and the car license. So we've got his car we use it as a stock car. So.
What do you tell him?
Well, I can't see, so it doesn't matter.
No, but what do you tell him? How's that car? Yeah, it's great.
It does, because Ewan was coming of the age where he needed to learn to drive. So I said, you know, he was learning to drive up and down the street, and I think my granddad was hoping that was going to be his first car, you know. But we end up turning into a stock car, and his first car was a Volkswagen Polo, and 400 quid's worth, and had an electric steering pump on it. Electric steering pump stopped, and he went a bit wide when he just passed his test, clipped a wall, and took the mirror off it, and I had to buy him a bit newer because the wife was going mental. You tight bastard, get him a decent car. So.
That's brilliant, man. I tell you what, the best thing is he's hung around with his dad far too long. Dad, right, I was tipping in and I just lost the front a bit and I just clipped the wall on the right. No problem, son. It's happened to me a few times. Don't you worry. Like that.
The shift I drove, though, I didn't really care. That was a Rolls Royce compared to the shite I had when I first passed my test. It was Marinas and Avengers and fucking shite. And my dad was John McGuinness and I was John McGuinness, so I used to use his insurance policy. So whenever I got stopped by the police, it's just to show him my dad's insurance. That's how I used to get away with it. Nowadays, it's totally different. You know, it's all it's just aggro, innit?
Was it your dad who, you know, got you into motorbike racing in the first place? Was his influence?
Yeah, it was. It was all my dad. My dad raced a bit in sort of late 60s, just before I was born. I'm born in 72, so he did a bit of scrambling, it was called, in the late 60s. He wasn't a bad old goer, to be honest. He was, worked for a bike shop in Morecambe, Malcolm Walker, as he was called. Then he had his own bike shop, McGuinness Motorcycles, where he did a bit of sort of MOTs and bike dealing and servicing and stuff like that. And but my dad, bless him, he didn't know what the VAT man was or the tax man and one thing or another, and he was still.
Does he now?
No,
No.
Still avoids them. But he wasn't a bad racer as well. He was a good grass track rider, good motocross rider, and a good road racer. He did a bit of road racing. He would have been all right, but he was too interested in drinking and shagging and fighting. So that was the end of his motorbike career. But your dad's your dad, isn't he? He's always your hero. He put me on a bike when I was 3 years old, Italia Jet Bambino, a little 8-inch wheel Bambino. And when my dad had the bike shop, you could, he'd just put me on my bike on the school holidays, and I'd just tear around the industrial estate. And I used to make little toy ramps. I thought it was Evel Knievel. Like nowadays, if you've got a motorbike out, police helicopters up in it, and one thing or another, you're all in a load of shit. But in them days, it was, John's just passed us on his little Italia Jet. How are you doing? And everybody was, that's what it was like in them days.
Did he ever get any pressure from your dad? Obviously, there's a bike, son, go have a bit of fun. Did it ever get to a point of going, look, come on, we're going racing, we're going to do this, you have to do this? Did he ever get that? Or were you very much a man of your own imagination, shall we say? I want to keep going.
My dad was probably yes, in a nutshell.
Pressure.
Yeah, probably a lot. It was probably
right.
Not a lot, but you feel it, don't you? He was probably one of the worst. I call him schoolboy motocross dads.
Right, aye.
Nightmare. He was hanging over the fence, and
You still see that now.
Yeah, I know. It's still the same. I've been to race meetings where he's held the ropes up and waved me off the track, and I'm not watching that fucking shit. Get off. You're embarrassing and stuff. So.
But you see the man in front of you now. Do you think that?
Yeah, I always have a laugh about it. And that. My first scramble meeting was an RM50, and I started crying. I didn't want to do it. I got to the line and I shit myself, and my dad was cross, and he's like, "Yeah, I can just load it bike up and chuck me back at the van and drop me off and get up them stairs, fucking bollocking and stuff." So, but on the other side, he was the proudest dad in the world. He'd be there. He'd be. My dad did a bit of bike van dealing, so we'd be in a transit van, he'd dealt up, or some fucking Volkswagen camper, and it'd be on trophy, be on dashboard at van, and he'd be going on proudest dad in the world. But other times, I suppose I can see the frustration of being a parent myself. When if you can see that if you're trying or not, or you're doing your best, and sometimes you're not, and then it's all you could ever give is your best, and that was it really, and but he was, I used to be scared of him, big fella, and I told him to, piss off one day and one thing and another, and he just left me.
He had the clutch in with the gear in.
He left me.
Really?
I was only about 12-year-old, 13 or something, and
Jesus.
we were in Barrow in Furness or somewhere, and then I just walked off in a huff and come back, and there was a square where the van was. He just left me there, so I had to find my way home from Barrow at 12, 13 years old. So he just left me, but it was just frowned upon now. But I learned a lot from. You always learn a lot from your dad. He was great.
Is there a specific moment that you can remember where that sort of dynamic between you and your dad sort of switched around, and it went from him maybe pushing you to him turning around and being like, bloody hell, John, like you're exceeding what I was sort of expecting?
Yeah, I suppose it was probably early stages of road racing when I went. I suppose it goes back. There's so much in between, But when I was 16, an AP50 Suzuki, then a TZR 125 Yamaha, then we got a KR1S. It was my dad's bike really, and I passed my test flying around on it everywhere. And there was a few comments from my dad's friends like, "Hey, look, get your son off the road. You're gonna kill yourself." I was a lunatic. Paddock jacket on, trainers flat out.
It's not changed now. Just
no.
the same.
When my John Deere overalls today, they're a bit. Probably about 0.5 mil more protection, but it's just flat out everywhere. But again with the road racing, it's probably a little bit different in it, a little bit more respect road. Really, it's a bit harder. The ground's a bit harder, and it's a bit more dangerous, a bit faster. So my dad was just trying to steer the ship along, and it was tough in the start because we never had any money. There was quite a few people chucking a few quid in the pot. I was working, Becky was working, we were all chucking it in the same pot, and just about scraping for an entry and a set of tyres and stuff. And my first race meeting was Aintree in 1990, 30 years ago. So my 30th anniversary this year, and I finished 29th and 31st. Got beat by two birds. I thought, not just quite as easy as it looks, this road racing. And my dad was a bit like there you go, son type thing, because I'd been the ultimate dog's bollocks on the road, which, it's like you're in the pub and you're the man to cock and bottle pub and all that lot. It's not really the reality of it, is it?
No, that's it.
The racing is totally different. You're going so much faster.
What's the area like now? Obviously, where like what I would class me and him is Northerners. You're a little bit south compared to us. I know you call yourself a proud Northern. He's twitching here. You can't see him, but he's ready to punch me. No. But like the area where we're from, we were discussing this on the way down, weren't we? Like, there's not many people from the northeast, and we don't get a lot of support in the area in bike racing. No. We get no. What's Morecambe like? What's this part of the world like?
Still tough.
Still tough.
Still tough. Yeah. Lancashire. There's been a few good riders come out of Lancashire, obviously.
Stroking his hair.
Fogarty come out of Lancashire. Neil Hodgson come out of Lancashire. There's been a few, and I think even the Mitchells, Graham Mitchell, I don't know if you know the 500 Grand Prix, Alan Carter's and all that. They're all sort of a band of this area, Yorkshire lads, and as far as the Padgetts and all them sort of area. I think it's. But I think it's just you need a bit of luck, You need a bit of luck, when I first started racing, I won S and one thing and another, and I won that Shell scholarship in 91 after the Super Teens year, and we made a portfolio, all our results and what you can get out of racing, and it was just a lot of shit, really. There'd just be people you take them to the bike show and they would just fucking throw them in the corner and that, but. I've had sponsors in the pub, just stood there in the pub, and they've come out of the woodwork, and we'll get involved, or it's just a. It's a lottery, really.
I wonder how many people are regretting chucking that portfolio away. You know what I mean? Like John McGuinness portfolio, people be running through their boxes of rubbish now, going, "Where the hell is that bloody thing?"
I actually remember, cause I won the same trophy, I think 12 years after. So I remember looking through all the names, and the year that you won the championship, the first year on the when you won the Kelvin S250, the names in the championship that year, Emmett, James Hayden, DJ. There must. If taken back all those years and seeing how all the different careers diverged after, it's
it's
unreal,
fantastic, isn't it, really, when you look back at it and you think, when I was first started racing, we did that Super Team Championship. I mean, the lad that won it that year was a lad called Darren Mitchell. He got killed at Brands Hatch, He got killed at Brands Hatch in 2003, just after David was killed at the TT. It's funny, we all sort of grew up together, but I mean, David was super strong on the Super Teens. He was on the RGV. There was Jason Vincent, Mark Snell. There was, like I say, Jason Emmett, as well as there were just loads of us. And James Hayden was in there, and we were just young, snotty kids, going racing. And we loved it. We were pulling wheelies on BMXs around the paddock, or wheeling a scooter, or it was like the big. We did it the big time. We were just going along with these BSB championship races. Well, the Super Cup, I think it was called at the time. But what an opportunity! It opened a lot of doors for me. That and yeah, them paths, some careers, and there's been BSB winners and world champions and TT winners and on and on and on. So it was a great opportunity, that Super Teens, and you could just about afford to do it. If you're in the top 5, you maybe get a set of tires, or you get some oil, or you'd get a free entry, or it was semi affordable, like nigh on impossible now. Yeah. But great memories. I can't believe it's that long ago. It's ridiculous, honestly. It's like yesterday.
And obviously mentioning Sean Emmett, it's been a while since he's been sort of in the biking game. I have a real distinct memory of Thruxton. When he thought he'd won that race and he went to pull a wheelie up the line, and someone slipped. Someone slipstreamed him around the out. Have you seen that?
No, I've got to now.
Yeah, he was leading the BSB race. I think it was for Paul Bird, wasn't it? And he clutched it coming out of the last corner to pull it a wheelie over the line, and someone just went round the outside of him, lost the race, trying to show off. And the cameras went straight to Birdie on pit lane, and he just walked. Honestly, mate, you've got to see it. It's hilarious.
I finished second on that bike in Macau to Michael Rutter. It was an F04 Factory 999 Ducati, beautiful bike. And I had a one-off ride on it in Macau. But yeah, Sean, embarrassing.
What happened with Sean? Because there was that palaver.
I don't know.
Was it in Dubai or something? Or
yeah, I think he got on the drink a bit, didn't he? And he knows that. He was in a bit of a mess, and obviously with a racing job, they don't want to be associated with that. But supernatural, gifted, talented rider, he went and did Grand Prix, 500 Grand Prix on that YZR 500 for Shell. Then he replaced someone on Lucky Strike 500 RGV. So he's had loads of sort of plenty of opportunities. Great rider, but just at the end, the Dubai thing, I wouldn't want to make a comment on that. Something to do with his missus. So
Fair
enough. None of us was there, so it's really hard to make a comment. But sad to see, really. He should be an ambassador for something in the sport, because I'm sure he's got something to give back, because he was exceptionally good. Ugly though.
And then from the Super Dean days, what was the next step?
Well, I won that Shell Scholarship. It was called Shell Scholarship. It was called. Me and Alistair McRae. He was in the Rally Scholarship winner, and I was the two-wheeled winner, really. And we didn't know, because 91, when, like I say, I won that British Clubman's Championship, and if you use Shell oils, you got a Shell Gemini sticker to put on your bike, and then you got these stars as you went through the championship, and then you went in the hat to win this scholarship, and I won the championship. But we were wet behind the ear. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just going from race to race, ducking and diving. We ended up winning the championship and won that scholarship. But a little bit, what's the word? I thought I'd hit the jackpot a bit, really. I got this sort of factory ride deal with Shell and Harris, and I'd sort of kicked back, I thought, job's done now. I'm going to be world champion. I'm going to have a yacht in Marbella. I'm going to, it's all jobs I've hit the jackpot. But I just didn't network. I didn't keep things going. I didn't really understand it. There was a lot going on behind the scenes, that because the year after they went to 500 Grand Prix with Sean on the Shell 500, Harris made them privateer 500 Yamahas, and I was sort of not left by the side. It was my own fault, really. I should have kept my eye a bit more on the ball, and then
did
I
you
got
have
the flick.
Did you have any I think what's important now, and what a lot of forget, is you almost adopt, knowing or without knowing, like mentors, don't you? People to look up to and people that actually help you out. At that particular time, were you essentially by yourself, or did you have?
I was, yeah. I was sort of by myself, yeah. It's easy saying it now, but
yeah. Well,
at the time, I didn't know. I didn't know. I wasn't at the right places. You've got to go to these bike shows. You've got to introduce yourself. You've got to blah blah blah. But the stuff that you have to do and stuff you take for granted. But I was a bit shy. I didn't really know what I was doing. Going from race to race, and a lot of things were happening behind the scenes that I didn't really have my eye on. And then at the end of the year, it was just, see you, John. We're going Grand Prix with Sean, and I was like, ugh. So it was a good thing, because it kicked me in the arse a bit, It knocked me into shape a little bit, made me grow up a little bit, and then end of 92, it was back to grassroots, lad and dad, missus, rotten Iveco van, red diesel, no insurance, no tax, you name it, and what we wanted to.
What's changed?
It's a bit different now, just a little bit.
He's still off his dad's license, man.
That was good, that. Well, you're too young, but when you used to have to, if you ever got pulled up in a vehicle, you used to have to go to the police station, bang on the door, and they'd open and there'd be a big book, and you go in. You used to have a doc check, they were called, document check. You had 7 days to do them, so I used to go in with my dad's insurance, and he's just write a serial number down. There were no checks or computer checks. It was all just notepads and that, and off you went. So you'd be standing there, you'd be fucking knees would be trembling, you'd think shitting your pants, like. Right, lads, no problem. Off you go, and off you be away. But
class, man.
I had no choice. I'm not proud of it, really. It's funny now. You have a laugh about it.
Of course, it breeds character, man. You know what I mean?
It wasn't. You weren't doing no wrong.
Mm-hmm. No.
You weren't beating an old biddy up over the head or robbing Tesco's or whatever. You were just bending the rules. But that's what it was like, and there were loads of us like that. The most important thing was the bikes. A lot of my mates did other things. The why are you coming to this acid party? We're going doing this. That's what it was in the early 90s. It was all fucking ease and drugs and raves, what they call them. I was like, I'm off to Brands Hatch this week, and all my mates are like, what are you on about? They didn't get it. You know what I mean? But I was just totally fixed.
Do you meet them people now?
I do, yeah.
Now they bump into them, and I bet, come on,
I
right? No, but okay, right. Me, on the other hand, I'll be walking by like that, both fingers swaying in the way, going, "Get in, Bobby!"
Well, it was a brickie as well. That's another bloody story.
I took a brick at them then.
the 3 years at college were all the same time what we're talking about. I was serving my time as a brickie as well. So, and then one brickie wouldn't pay me one day. I was working for him, and I thought, twat, it was about 220 quid he owed me. I was like, I'd sort of take that one on the chin.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'll have my day one day. And I was going to a bike show or something a long time ago. I can't remember when it was, 06 or 07 or something. And he come out of his house, and I saw him. I was, ooh, this is my time, beauty. Zebra crossing in front of me. So, it's about -5. He's got a yellow bucket with some tools in it, and he's level as normal. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. And then he sat. I sort of fucking just pulled up. I was in my Porsche 911 C4.
I chucked 100 grand out the window.
I let him go across the road. I was like, beep, beep, beep. Remember me. So that was the only time I saw.
Sweet revenge.
Yeah.
Sweet revenge. Where's me 220
That
quid?
was worth the 220 quid. That moment was awesome. But
I'm a big believer in whoever laughs louder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
But it was, it was all finished 92. I was like, but the easiest thing to do would have been, start a business in the building trade or, whatever. But it's funny, I started off with nothing, so I could have never lost nothing.
Exactly.
I didn't start off with 2 million quid and blew 200 million quid. I started off with nothing anyway, so I just carried on, and I bought a TZ 250 Yamaha off Rob McElnay, an ex-Loctite bike. There was an ex-British Championship winning bike of Paul Brown. He won the championship. And, I remember going with a bag of cash to buy it and dropped it on the table and walked off with a load of spares and a TZ and grassroots again,
See, I like to think of myself as a bit more of a pay-as-you-go rider. I've got no money, John. I'm not giving you any illusion. I've got no money, but I'm not in debt.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like,
That's a
like
good
was that a case for yourself? So you're saying a bag of cash went and bought the fastest bike you get your hands on?
Well, that cash, I bought that with, again, we're going off on a tangent again. I've done all sorts of stuff in my life, really. I suppose I was a muscle
anything
fisher,
but
muscle
acid
fisherman
rates
as well. I fish for mussels as well. Me, Becky, and Becky's dad. So the mussel fishing job was awesome.
Yeah,
and it was all pound notes. There'd be a French truck and a Dutch truck waiting there. The Dutch wanted all the big shelled ones with the big meats. The French wanted all the small petite ones to look pretty, and I used to piss on the French ones. Bag of pound notes.
Yeah, your dear wife in the other room here just shaking her head. That's fantastic.
She used to do a bit, the old bride, yeah.
What pissing on the French ones?
Maybe.
No wonder you're still married today. That's teamwork.
Just dribbles now a bit. Yeah. dribbles a bit now, bless her.
She shouted something there that I'm not going to repeat on the podcast.
No, we used to do a bit together. So it used to be good. £6 a bag, all pound notes, and I went and bought. I remember giving it 7,200 quid to Rob Mack in a bag, and that was every shilling we had. And I still had my Iveco 6010 that was dropping to bits around us. A little cantilever toolbox, and Steve Hislop gave me my first set of tyre warmers in 1992. No, 93, yeah.
My dad bought his first race bike from Steve Hislop. He went up to Scotland. It was stuffed underneath the staircase, and he didn't even pull it out. He goes, "Well, there's the bike." My dad's like, "Well, we pulled the bike out." He goes, "Well, why do you want to do that?" He goes, "I'm about to buy the bloody bike, and you're not pulling it out."
I knew Stevie quite well. He never was interested in anything. His helmets or leathers or trophies or nothing. Never any interest. Just give them away.
Wow.
He said to me, I'll bring you a set of warmers to Knockillis or whatever it was, and he come with a Tesco bag with a set of warmers in when he raced his 250, because he was European 250 champion, was he? About 1990, 91. And, off we went racing again, and 93, we'd sort of have to do a meeting, miss a meeting, do a meeting, save up, and just do it whatever we could. And it was good. It was tough, bikes sort of hard to keep it going, but I was always a bit like you, Dominic. I was one like the cheeky little bastard of the paddock,
Oh, no, not me, John. Not me. It's Chrissy here. That's the cheeky one. I'm telling you.
I got really friendly with a bloke called Phil Plater from Dunlop, maybe before your time, but they used to sneak the good tyres out the back door, out the dustbin, and give me real good second-hand tyres, and there was some good lads in 250s then, Steve Sawford, Nigel Bosworth, Wolsey Coulter, all real good, solid, competitive bunch of lads, and some were lucky and and deservedly so. They had the better gear, but I used to get second-hand pistons off Bars used to get second-hand spark plugs off the boys, and then Dunlop slipped me, some tyres through the back door. And, I still have that relationship with Dunlop now. I've helped them develop their Redtech tyres and been a Dunlop tyre ambassador for years. So, but I had to, I had to get the second-hand pads. I had to get all the bits, and it kept us going. And
Hold on, didn't you used to run Hutchie's pads?
Yeah, well, similar sort of thing. Yeah,
This is mint.
On the way through.
You don't have to mention it if I'm getting you in trouble, Chrissy.
No.
Good man, crack on.
It's like on the thousands, the Brembo. I can't remember the name of the pads, but they're like 300 quid a set.
Yeah.
Z4.
Z4.
The Z4s, and people use them for maybe a day or so, and then they still got loads of thickness on them, and then they're selling them off for like 20 quid, and you think the difference. If you're fighting for the difference between first and second, you might need that extra edge. But when you're coming up through, just scraping to get into the top 10 or whatever, it's jobs are good. Un.
Nothing wrong with that, Chrissy.
Not at all.
Any ways or means.
And was it around this sort of time that you had your introduction to road racing, or?
1994 really was my first dip the toe into the road racing, but I had always loved it. Again, going way back again, my dad used to do a bit of racing, TZ350s, RGs, TZ750s, and my dad did the Derby road races, the small road race circuit at Derby.
They're trying to bring that back,
Really?
Apparently, I don't know.
It's a bit of you.
Huh?
It's a bit of you, that.
Well, it is, man.
It's a sketchy little track.
I did some testing there 2 years ago.
Did you?
Oh, there's a road race
No,
around
not the road
Derby.
race,
There's
yeah.
actual
sorry,
a road.
sorry, I meant,
No, here. It's pretty much the same sketchiness. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's like it's mental, man. Mental.
Yeah, Derby road race. I mean, my dad again. We were 10-year-old. My brother was 8 or something. Andy, my brother, and off we went to Alaman. And first time, 10-year-old, is when the practice was on for the TT as well. So, people would do the Derby thing, then go and do the TT, or do the Derby and go home. And we were off school, and then I watched my dad race, and then he put us on the ferry, and I'd be going mental wanting to stop to watch the TT races, but we had to go back to school. But I watched them. I watched Crosby, Granty, Joey, Haslam, all them. They were gladiators to me. I was like, fuck, these guys are legends. I want to be a TT rider one day. That was at 10-year-old. But as I started, with the road racing on short circuits, it just built up, and I wanted to go onto the roads, but I didn't want to go too early. I needed to grow up a little bit and get some experience, and went to the Northwest in '94. But I got really.
Was that your first road race?
Yeah, first
Northwest.
road race. Yeah. Northwest '94. But I knew Mick Lofthouse, I knew David Jeffries were doing it, I knew all the lads that were doing it, Ian Duffus, all the top guys, Robert Dunlop, they were all the doers at the time, and I'd spoken to them, and like, yeah, get yourself across, and do it, and just, steady away, 250, dip my toe in, come in under the radar. Like now you're flipping, everything's social media mad in it, and like them days you just sneak in under the radar. Tough, baptism of fire, struggled. Bike was dropping to bits really around us. We could only sort of piss with the dick that we had, and clutch started slipping coming out of the roundabout in one of the races. And well, the interesting thing with that was my dad went mad. The only time my dad with my road racing got a bit emotional about it and didn't want me to go road racing. I think he wanted me to be a world champion short circuit rider, but sort of, when I decided to go road racing, he wouldn't go to the Northwest. He wouldn't come with me, which was so unusual for my dad. I'm like, please, you need to come with me. And I was only 22 or something, 23-year-old, and Becky would only be 19 or something. So me and Becky were off on this adventure to the Northwest in 1994. Proper. Didn't know what we were doing. I thought we were legends. We were driving up to a Causeway Coast for a bit of a day out, and everybody's waving at me. I thought, I don't know, I'm a bike racer, and they must know I'm famous and that. And what had happened, back door had fell open at the back of the van. His head was dangling out of the back of the van. So they're all waving at me. Fucking bikes hanging out of the back door. But yeah, it was hard. It was bloody hard. It
was it 94 the first year you then went to the TT, or was
no 96 for the TT the first time? Yeah, so.
Obviously, it was a really difficult TT that year, obviously with Mick Lofthouse and Robert Holden. Can you remember?
Yeah,
in detail.
I can remember it all. Remember it all like yesterday. Mick become really friendly with us. Early night when I did that Super Teens and things, and because he's local, he's Lancashire lad from Oswestwhistle. cheeky little buggy, good fun, bit of a wheeler and a dealer, just right up my street. He was a bloody good rider. All his bikes were always mint. He was called Mint. His nickname was Mint.
Class.
The first time I went abroad testing in Spain, I went with Mick, and Norman Burgess. And if you know Norman from Silcolini, we went off to Barcelona. I'd never been abroad before, and we were off to Barcelona testing with Mick. And he's like, do the TT. You've got the right. Because I was always steady. I was always okay, but I never really stuck my neck out much in PSP. Everybody sort of said right through my race, you're not aggressive enough, and you're too nice on track, and which I always have been, to be honest, and probably too much really. But it was a good temperament for the TT, and I'd also grown up a bit as well. I was 25-year-old and went to TT for the first time, so I'd done 2 New York Northwest and loads of British Championship racing, and but the final piece in the jigsaw was I had a new bike. Paul Bird's new bike. So I was Paul Bird's first rider in his team. He runs a Ducati team now, obviously, and he's huge. But I was the first jockey on his team. So, we went to the Northwest in '96, and after me 2 years of being there, so I knew the track, and now I'm on a good bike, Frank Rathall tuned 250, brand new, good tyres, everything's flying. Next thing I dropped the clutch, and I'm on the leading group in the slipstream for the leading group with Joey Dunlop, Philip McCallum, Woolsey Coulter, all these guys. I'm like, fuck, whoa,
I've made it.
Aye, but you're looking at, you're more concentrating on what Joey's doing. He's got the yellow helmet, the Dunlop on his back, he's on the Honda Britain thing. I'm like, fucking hell, it's Joey there, which is my all-time hero. After that, we finished 4th in the first race, and I bloody ran out of petrol on the last lap of the second race, line second.
Never.
Yeah, I ran out of petrol, yeah.
In front of Joey, behind Joey at this point?
In front of him, I think.
Oh, how way.
That
would have been...
Ran out of petrol. And it always, if you ever bring it up, people just look at you like you're a dick. You know what I mean? It's like, actually, I can remember it so bad because it's just like, fuck,
But you're smiling about it. That's the good thing, isn't it? You know what I mean?
If you ever brought it up, you just sound like, he's just really sour, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know, but I just think, what a fucking knobhead. But it's and we hadn't got a TT entry in at that point for the TT. We'd sort of never really touched on it really with Birdie. We were more concentrating on the British Championship. I mean, Birdie said, at the start, you need to find 10 grand and all that. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I couldn't find 10 quid. And I went to Birdie and I said, fuck me, there's no way I can find 10 grand. And I'd end up delivering chicken and dropping things off for him and doing, sort of work me 10 grand off. But that's another story again. But going back to the Northwest, we finished the race. We were really competitive. And I said, Birdie, should we do TT? And it was just like that, just not off the cuff. I wanted to do it. Yeah. But I needed Birdie's support on it with the bike and everything. I just, the timing was perfect. Emotions were high. We had a good result. And he said, yeah. So I just caught him. Do you know what I mean? Right, we're in. And I got I rung him up, real late entry, and I got 600 quid off the organisers to go. I got 350 quid off the Mike Aylward Foundation, and off we went, and stopped it back of my 7.5 tonner I had at the time. It was an ex-parcel wagon, Tufnells, a green wagon. I went to the TT, but it was tough. Like you just touched base there with what happened in practice. Tough practice week. The weather was bad, and they'd send you out in them conditions. They never really bothered in them days, and I just got somebody with a chalkboard saying wet all around and windy and all that sun. And my first lap was like three seasons in one day. Not 4 seasons in one lap, I should say. 4 seasons in one lap, or something like to say. It was windy, cold, sunny.
And that's your first ever lap.
Yeah, you don't get a control lap behind Johnny Barton and all that lot like you do now. It was just
welcome to the deep end, son.
Aye.
Chuck away your armbands. We're
5
off
in the morning, windy Monday morning, and cold and wet and damp and foggy and everything. Everything was thrown at it. But I giggled because I'd done the homework. Yeah. I sort of knew what to expect. Mentally, but obviously, putting it all together is totally different. But I sort of thought, bloody hell.
In the wet as well. You know what I mean? That's a total different side of it.
I remember. I tried to set off with Mick. Mick was on Lofthouse on the 125. I was on my 250, but I got sort of elbowed out a bit. And the 2 bikes in front of me was a lad called Lee Pullen, who got killed at Spa. Marshall walked out in front of him. No. Lee was a real good mate of mine, and Becky's and that. One family. I'm still really close with Charlotte Pullen and his daughter now. And I was there when she was conceived, actually. So yeah, on the start line in front of me is Lee Pullen and Mick Lofthouse. You know, Lee had a slick in the back and it was raining and a black visor. I thought, have I done something wrong here? Am I missing out on something? And he'd just be laughing his head off, big chin sticking out the bottom of his helmet, and off they went. And yeah, I went round. I picked my way around. But I came in. We came in after practice, and the old T, you know, the T tent thing used to be there, like a bloody old army barrack thing. And you know, he was there. Bruce Anstey was a newcomer that year. David Jeffries was a newcomer that year, and Paul Owen. And I know Paul didn't quite just make it, but he was a good old stick, was Paul.
Oh, he still is. You know,
he's a great guy.
A great lad.
Yeah, he just, you know what I mean? Just didn't cut it. But Bruce there, Bruce and Dave, and that you've done it, you've experienced it. You know, you're in like tea cabin. You're like, you're just bumping away a load of gibber, aren't you? Because you're just hyped to death. Yeah, you're just hyped to death on adrenaline. And yeah, and as the week went along, I was enjoying it a bit more. Weather was a bit iffy. We didn't really get much practice. Then Mick got killed in front of me at Milltown, and so did Robert Holden on the Fridays. I was like, fuck. You know, it just killed it a bit, really. Killed it a bit, really. I was like, you know,
you've waited for this your entire life, and you feel,
I thought this is not really what it's about, you know. But it's strong people, you know, like Paddock's a community, you know, the strong folk, and strongest of all was Mick's dad. Get your fucking self out on that bike, you know. Mick would have wanted you to ride, and remember the race day, glorious day, beautiful day. Come out in the end, shit weather all week, and lovely. Set off number 18, and I got moved from 71 to number 18.
Jesus.
Off I went. You know, I finished 12th. I did 111.8, which was, you know, Joey won it 116. I did 100, just shy of 112. Got a bronze replica.
At that pace, that's phenomenal.
Jobs, you know, box ticked if you like, and you know, selfishness as we are with motorbike racing, you forget all about what had happened a few days earlier, and you know, the rest is history.
Yeah. So Lee, coming back over to Morecambe after that TT, and obviously, like you say, a total mix of emotions. Was that your heart set on, you know, a career doing the TT from then? And did you just sort of, you know, get bitten by the bug and that was it?
I did love it, and I did sort of know it was going to be that way, if you like. But
what was your opinion on short circuits? Like after that, did you think immediately? Did you think I want both, or did you think I know what I want now? You must have.
I wanted both.
Oh,
I still wanted. I still like both. You know, a lot of people. I'm recognised as a road racer, which is lovely. But I wasn't bad at short circuits.
No, like
I was going to say a lot of, like, you obviously famous for the, you know, the Isle of Man TT and like your main achievements there. But, you know, looking through your career history, and there's a lot of things that people oversee, you know. I've actually watched years ago I was watching the MotoGP from Donington Park 2000. Is it Rossi's first race when I think that race? And you know,
I was in it
not
as a
too
wild
far,
card.
not far behind as well.
You told me on the way up, I couldn't believe this is terrible. You just told me on the way up, it was phenomenal, man.
I finished 13th.
That's fantastic in a MotoGP race, for crying out loud.
I finished 14th in the 250 Grand Prix in 1997. In 98, I was 500 wildcard on the Vimto 500. I got lapped by Simon Crafer. Won it on the Yamaha. I'll bore you to death now, but he won the race. Did Simon on the Dunlops. Dunlops was always a strong tyre around there for some reason. And then Mick Doohan was second, and Aoki was third. I got lapped by the top three. And then 99, I was dicing for 10th place with Simon Crafer the year after, who won the race, who lapped me, and he was on an MUZ, you know where the Muzz is, the Swiss Auto Engine Muzz. So loads of bikes on the grid there, interesting stuff, and
that progression's
bike seized up on the
huge.
last lap. My bike seized on the last lap. We had a little hole in the radiator. It must have been seeping water for the whole race, and them 500 twins used to sometimes kiss the hairpin and Goddards and Redgate. It was quite hard on brakes around there. 30-lap Grand Prix on a 500 was bloody tough in them days. And it seized up on last lap. I was fucking wounded.
Your last lap history's not that strong, is it? You know what I mean? Running out of fuel, the engine season, that's hellish, man.
You know, that 2000 with Rossi, you know,
this is his dream, Matt. You've lived his dream. His all-time hero is like everyone. He's mine. He's everyone. And you've raced, and that's incredible. You haven't just dawdled around at the back. That's incredible.
And you know, it's I'll tell you another little thing. It's proper boring and proper me blowing my own trumpet, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Good
With
man.
that Grand Prix, that 2000 Grand Prix, it was pouring down at the start, and the Michelin tyres were miles better than Dunlops. I was not Dunlop, but remember when the first our wet tyres now is like a radial tyre, isn't it? It never used to be. It used to be blocks. It used to be like blocks of rubber. Well, Dunlop had brought this radial tyre out, and at the start, I was gone, miles behind, last, wobbling around at the back. Then the track dried out, and I kept going faster and faster and faster, and for 2/3 of the race, I had the fastest lap of the race in that Grand Prix. Which is totally... It just sounds like a dickhead,
crap.
right? But it genuinely had the fastest lap of the race, right?
Then MotoGP.
Yeah, I did. Then they came in. Couple came in. Gary McCoy came in and put some slicks on. He got the fastest lap of the race. Yeah, fair enough. And then it was Rossi, Kenny Roberts, and it was me, the fastest through the race.
Jeremy
was third on the Aprilia.
Yeah, it was a good race. That was all at the front.
Do you know it was the day Joey Dunlop's funeral as well. I couldn't go to Joey's funeral, and it was sort of dedicated to his podium was dedicated to Joey. So
What a way to honour that man. In all seriousness, that is the best way you could have done it.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
But I remember it. They're so under the radar races like that. The yesterday's news, and I remember them because they're so special to me to be on a 500 grid and to do it. And you two have raced that yourself, and you come out of Coppice and you go down the back straight where you can see people coming around Goddard's, can't you? You can see riders coming around Goddard's. Well, Rossi was so distinctive because he was always day-glow yellow. Well, for more than half the race, I don't know, 15, 20 laps or something like that, they got away from me, and I was catching them because I could see Rossi coming out of Goddard's, and he was getting further and further towards, and it just kept me going, that inspiration in a race. I was sort of in no man's land, and I came back and back and back and more or less into the top 10. But then I coming out back straight, I was like, Rossi again. I'm waiting for the last lap, next lap, like rubbing my hands. Yeah, it's Rossi again, and you could just see him and see him. Yeah, so it's it's part of the journey, isn't it? I've
catching them, catching the world's biggest rabbit. That is the way to do it. Isn't it? Like, if you've got a rabbit to chase and you're catching him, Valentino Rossi, that is one claim.
So much. He's achieved so much. I got to spend a bit of time with him. He's a monster athlete, so I spent time with him doing things. I speak to him on WhatsApps, and he's invited me to his ranch and stuff. And
we heard
I
you've
must
turned
be
him
the
down
only
a
man
few.
who's turned Rossi down at his ranch.
You need to get him here doing a bit of speed.
I got my little ranch, yeah, but I think his ranch is a big toy shop. But do you know what? For 40-year-old and all them lads he rides around with, I know Hutchie went and he was 8 or 9 seconds a lap off what they were doing, so they were fucking not hanging about. So I'm 47-year-old man. I'm an old man, so I don't want to get too giddy. I'd love to go just I'd sit outside and have a few beers and just wave them on, but I will get there eventually.
Age is just a number, son. Someone described it to me as levels. You're just a higher level than folk. That's all it is.
I feel great just till you hit the ground, then it takes a long time to heal.
Oh, that's the same for everyone. So stop whinging, man. Stop whinging.
On that topic, obviously you've had a few big injuries over recent years. Are you fighting fit now, fully back to good?
He was howling around on that speedway bike like with no injury. I'm telling you.
Do you know what I feel better on a bike than I do walking upstairs. I really feel...
Credit to your surgeons, because that's your job, son. So that.
But, I do things, I think, fuck, I'm blowing out of my hole and thinking, sometimes go for family walks and I'm like, I'm not really enjoying this. And I know it's got to be done sometimes, but when I get on my bike, it's like my little office, my little world. And maybe I've always been a bit of a lazy rider and only just about done enough, never really, But I just... My leg was a mess. Bottom line, I've still got a plate in it, 7 screws. That's going to have to stay in. The leg was compounded. I brought my back in 4 places. Brought 5 or 6 ribs down this side. Dislocated my thumb. Yeah, so they hurt, and every day it still hurts now. Everything I do, it's niggling away, but it doesn't stop me doing anything. Like I say, you can roll over, and grow old. I'm a bit fat. I'm a bit heavy. I got a little bit lazy. I got a little bit, leading up to last week or so, I've had a little bit of motivational issues as well with what's been going on. But this new deal is kindling's back on the fire now, so it's just wants stoking up a bit now. And need to get kicking the ghoulies and get going a bit really.
I was about to say, because obviously, well, I think we're going to have to touch on it because we'll have a lot of listeners keen to talk about it, and you know what's coming. It's a bit like, obviously, with Norton, you return from injury, and I'm gonna put it out there because it was a crap couple of years. Because the first year out sitting on the sidelines, which was understandable. You've got to get better to get to where you are now, and then the following year, it wasn't the right package for you. No, you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong. It was Norton, the big brand. You chucked everything at it, but sometimes things just don't fit. And for me, looking outside, looking in, it didn't fit.
There's a million ways of looking at it. For me, I was 45-year-old sat here, full of tramadol and morphine, not worth a carrot, and there wasn't many people on the phone. He was one of them, was Stuart Garner, so he, sort of gave me a direction, and I went to the TT in 18 and, injured and seen what Josh did on the bike, 131 and finished 5th, so it's fucking not hanging about.
Yeah,
so the potential's there, but it just, I had my ideas, they sort of had their ideas, and somewhere in the middle it didn't sort of line up. We pushed for the SG8, which was the 1200, which was illegal. So they had to bring the SG7 out, and as much as we tried, we just got one in the knackers everywhere we went. Northwest was a disaster. My hand on my heart, probably 650 needed of the year in development. That just broke everywhere we rode it, and it ground me down.
Yeah, of course
I
it
lost
would.
my confidence. I lost my mojo a little bit, and it's Norton, McGuinness. It's Hollywood. The whole thing was Hollywood, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, of course.
From the outside looking in, it was.
Factory
been
Norton,
a lot better than what it was. And every time I put my leg over that superbike, it broke. I never got any mileage in it whatsoever, and
but that obviously doesn't inspire confidence, especially around the course like that when things are falling off. And
I'm a confidence rider. I've worked with Julian and Leighton Haig and Julian Boland from Honda, and silly old Neil Tuxworth. Sometimes you want to throttle him at times, but he put a good package together, a happy package, and it's never been one for me where maybe I've not been on the fastest bike, I've not been on the slowest bike, but I've always been at a real good, solid package around me, and I was never on the phone to them guys like, have we tightened this up, have we done this, have we ordered that, have we done, it was just natural. They were an extension of my brain, but the Norton side, I tried to do bits of it, and I respect Stuart Garner, I respect the brand aspect, that it would have been amazing, but it just didn't happen. And
like we were saying, it's like a puzzle, isn't it? Racing is a puzzle, and everything's got to fit, and it just didn't fit, did it?
It had some problems at the end of 18 that I wanted to address, and it didn't happen, and thing is with the TT, you need new stuff. When you go on the racing on the roads, you need new tackle. When it's old, it's tired, and there's no way you can,
you can't compensate new gear. You can't compensate.
What's the word? Roll the turd in glitter, or whatever. It's just once it's knackered, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's where the SG7 was. It was tired, and it all started going wrong with no practice whatsoever. And I was a bit embarrassed. I stuck my head in the sand after the TT. There's a lot of people put a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of faith in me. My loyal sponsors, Hitachi and Bet Victor and all the and Monster Energy and that. They've been with me a long time, and we've been through thick and thin. And that just was, I didn't know what to say at the end of it all. I just wanted to curl up and. You think racing's about fun and enjoying it. And when it's going wrong, it's the worst place possible to be. I did World Supersport in 02, hated every second of it. We all aspired to be world champions and things. The bike was crap, it was breaking down, had new circuits everywhere, and you were getting 20 minutes to learn somewhere like Kyalami, or 20 minutes to learn Monza and stuff like that, and testing. It was just hard, and that year was tough, but that I'm glad I'm through it. Mm-hmm. I wish them all the best for the future. Looking from the outside in, it's not looking great for Norton. No. Don't know.
Yeah,
obviously it's social media, right?
Yeah, we're getting bombarded at the moment with messages. Obviously, it's all over Twitter and everything about the financial problems. People getting refunds on the bike, and
thing is, we've got financial problems. I get my council tax bill still comes through the door every month. My electric bill comes through the door. We're all got to pay our, our dues and stuff. And some for somewhere on. I mean, there's no smoke without fire, is there? So something's going on. I don't know, and I wouldn't want to make a comment because it isn't fair because I don't know the details. And there's a couple of little things between me and Norton need straightening up, tying up. And if that's done, I'll shake his hand and we'll walk away.
I was about to say, at the end of the day, you're not just a knacker that's rolled off the street. You are a professional motorcycle racer, and they're a professional brand. So you've got to meet down the middle.
It's difficult to, when you walk onto the Isle of Man and you see the program, it's you're on the front program. Immediately there's pressure on you. The motorcycle news, everybody wanted to see it work. Everybody. And when you parked up at side of the road, it's embarrassing for me. It's embarrassing for everybody who's involved around me, and I'm just like,
But you're going to be your biggest critic. Now, the thing is, as a McGuinness fan, you know what I mean? Like everyone else that'll be listening to this, the sheer fact that when you signed for Norton, the whole world did not put pressure on you. What people wanted was to see it work.
Yeah.
The reality of it, the fact is, you got bloody Hickman going around at a 35 on a BM. You've got Dean Harrison going around literally a nuts knacker off a 35. The Norton, for the last couple of years, has not gone faster than the 31. So you can imagine that was a precious situation. Like you almost put too much on yourself. But the piece has got to work.
People, if I were doing 29s or 30s, 32s, it looks great. It sounds great. People wanted to see it. People got... the fans were nothing without motorbike fans. They pay the bills and one thing and another. So, and they didn't get to see it. So I feel sorry for them. I'm embarrassed for them. For me, you just think, but
You've been a bit hard on yourself.
Well, maybe, but I know what it's like. When I went to watch racing I was a fan. If Joey Dunlop broke down the first lap, I'd be gutted. I want to watch him go round. Well, I'm not saying. I was as a fan. I paid me money to be on the Isle of Man. I'd want to see the Norton go round. It didn't go round. It just fucking broke.
You could draw similarities, obviously not with the mechanical side of things, but obviously when Rossi made the change to Ducati, it was a big Italian dream. And things didn't work out, but he went back to what he knew, and that fired him up, and he came back, won races, and hopefully the parallels will carry on that way.
No reason why not.
Exactly.
No reason why.
Obviously, looking into 2020, obviously signed for Bournemouth Kawasaki. With James Hillier, they've been one of the most competitive and consistent teams. I think they've only had one DNF in 9 years or something.
Well, they've been together, James, and this is a Phil Wayne statistic, and this will be right. 57 starts in 10 years and 4 DNFs. Wow, that's amazing. One of them, to be honest, confidence. One of them was James slid off at the Craig, and then they bottomed it out at bottom of Bagara, didn't he?
Whacked the sump out. Yeah.
So there's Padgett's along the same way as that. Padgett's they're very very consistent and great years with Padgett's, by the way. That's another bloody story we could talk about for hours, but. Yeah, Bournemouth Kawasaki. It's lovely. It's nice. It's a family dealership. It's something that's been around. We're all on the same page. He drove from Bournemouth to here, which is a good old hike, which meant a lot to me. He came with his wife. We all sat down even with my kids. We're all in the meeting in the front room, and it was just an open chat really. And he's just thrown me some. A package that I can't refuse, I'm really looking forward to it.
When's the last time you won a Kawasaki?
Well, my racing career started on a Kawasaki, which was a KR1S.
Yeah, it's got you here. You're gonna win. Don't worry about it.
Green. But I rode the Hawk Kawasaki in 2004. When I went to TT in 04, won 3 TTs. I won the 400, the 600, and the Superbike race. And but at the start of the year, I had nothing, so I went from sort of 0 to hero again. I was in the right place at the right time. Glenn Richards injured himself at Thruxton, busted his arm, so I replaced him on the Hawk Kawasaki. So.
Is that Glenn Richards and Scott Smart?
Yeah,
I remember that.
So that was Scott's team, mate.
Back then, BSB was on like terrestrial TV with Steve Parrish and Charlie. The Australian guy, the commentator. Charlie, I can't remember his second name anyway. Yeah, I remember at the time the sort of HM plant Hondas and the Rizzler Suzukis, they were around the $100,000 mark, where the Hawk Kawasaki was kind of the underdog in that fight. It was about $35,000, and Scott Smart got a race win on it, and he was really competitive.
He did. He won a couple. He won at I think he won at Knockhill in the Damp as well, and he won at Mondello, I think. He won at Mondello. But I come straight back from the TT, hot from a few good rides, and I finished third at Brands Hatch in the rain behind. It was John Reynolds and Emmett, I think it was. John Reynolds on the Rizzler bike. But in them days, there were proper factory bikes, still some factory bikes kicking around, some factory Ducatis, some Suzukis and the factory Hondas. And the Hawk bike was, it was good, it was competitive, and it was a bike you could put together through, minimum cost. And Stuart Hickins had the team, so, and I rode for Stuart at Darley Moor at the end of last year, so I still have a great relationship with these guys,
Oh, brilliant. So can we delve into some plans with Kawasaki? Going to come back to the BSB, anything like that? A bit more track time? What's John McGuinness thinking?
Well, the thing is with Pete Extons and his team, he's like, do what you want.
Really?
If you want to do a BSB superbike race or something.
I need some track time. Do you reckon you could ask him to lend it for me?
Maybe, yeah.
Good man. Crack on.
No harm in asking, mate. No harm in asking. I've seen you on the speedway, by the way.
Yeah, that's a northern.
I've got plans to do this Ducati Cup. I've been making a few noises about it last couple of years.
Oh, brilliant.
But I've got a really good sponsor. Friend, really. He's a friend, known him a while now. He was an ex-professional speedway rider called Andre Compton, and his brother rode in the Ducati Cup, Dion Compton. His brother rode in the championship. So he rode speedway professionally for years. Now his business is taken off. He's doing really, really well, and he wants to ride in the team as well with me, alongside me, which should be really cool. He's got the minerals. Andre, he's a bit loose. He's going to end up on his head at some stage, which we all will do at some stage. But it'll be nice, it'll be a gazebo and a couple of bikes and a van, and that'll be it. It'll be back to what we used to do.
It'd be nice to have the opportunity though to sharpen up before obviously the road racing and be starting on Masquerade, and it is exciting.
It is.
And I think especially for the lads that are in the championship at the moment, it's obviously a big. You've got a big target on your back.
Are you going to be red again?
Oh,
Big Red Bull bang.
I thought that would be the easy route, looking at Superstock. Pete said do some Superstock, but I thought, that would be heavy going. There's lunatics in there, Chrissy. But I don't know. I think maybe Superstock might just be. Everybody says it won't be, but people are saying, do it. But I don't know. I quite like that Ducati thing. It's still the same tracks. It's still. I think there's a broad spread of age. There's a broad spread of abilities, and I could just blend into that championship. Okay. I miss our tracks. We have got some fantastic tracks in the UK. Alton Park, Brands Hatch, they're fantastic circuits, and I haven't ridden on them for ages. Millions of laps around them when I was younger, but an Alton Park BSB, I miss that going to the races, and it's always been, when I was strong in 2010, 11, 12, I was doing world endurance racing, so I was off to Le Mans, I was off to. We were off to Magny-Cours to the Bol d'Or or whatever, and it loads and loads of laps, and I just felt strong. I was in a real, in a rhythm and a groove, and that's where I want to be. It was always, for the minute, it feels a bit disjointed. The Norton thing was a bit disjointed, and, we didn't get the mileage, and it showed. It showed, as well as by letting me down. It was in myself a little bit as well.
But speaking of showing, though, we saw a total different John McGuinness at last year's Macau Grand Prix on board a Ducati. No, typically you had another bike problem on the start line, but boo-hoo. But you qualified, you came out a different man. You honestly, you did. You could tell you were just back enjoying the ride, and when a happy rider is a fast rider, and that rule will never be replaced in sport, ever. And I'm personally, I would love to be part of that championship just to get the hook out and get it around your neck and get a toe on, you know what I mean? But I can't wait to see you back
brilliant. There. I really, like to be the first positive was Darley Moor, and it's so weird to try and pitch a Darley Moor club race into it all, but I've done so much testing there with Honda. Under the radar, a lot of stuff around Darley Moor engines, and one thing when I was riding for Honda, and I know what's a quick lap around there. I've been running around there with Josh Brooks and a lot of people and stuff, and within 20 laps or so, I matched what I did on the Honda on the build-based Suzuki, and so enjoyed it again. It's all the details that you can't educate people with. You know, you might like. I was sat in my motorhome and I just lifted the curtains up in the motorhome in the morning, just have a watch the boys, you know, and bike come out, they hoovered the carpet, they put the bike on the stands, they check the tyre pressures, the tyre warmers are on, you know, just stuff like that where Norton, they just needed a bit more, educating, it needs more of a stable
refining
package, you know, and guys that have been there a long time. Well, you know, you don't have to be prodding these guys. It was when I was, you know, I know the Honda thing went wrong in the end with the thing accelerated on its own, which isn't, you know, that's not any secret. That was not my fault at all, which ended a brilliant era. You know, I thought I'd have a Honda job forever, but it all went tits up in a split second. But, you know, I thought, bloody hell, it's good this. You know, I jumped on bike, you know, flying around track, and, you know, I finished third in the Stars of Dali, which people have no interest in whatsoever. For me, it was a huge box ticks, and I went to Macau, jumped on that Duke, and loved every minute of it. And, you know, they're like, put a qualifier and do this, do that. I said, I was right around the race rubber, just building it up. I did loads of laps, did as many laps as anybody in practice. And I can only pitch myself of what I know what's right, and I know in myself what's right. When I got off the bike last year, I was still a little bit stiff in the leg. My leg was still a bit swollen. I was blowing out my ass a bit last year on that V-twin. But on that V4, just felt mint, you know, low 26s on race rubber. Like, did a few of them in practice, and we were right at the sharp end, and that just
got to the race.
Yeah. Well, it was a little kink pipe or something really silly it was. You'll never know with that. But I mean, looking back again, I always take the positives out of everything. I missed 4 laps. I missed 4 laps, you know. At the end of the day, I missed nothing really.
But that's it.
The only thing I missed out was a few quids of the prize money, which pissed me off a little bit. But to ride that Duke again, you know, I think it was the timing was right. Just put me back in the shop window, you know. And I'm always a believer things happen for reasons, you know. Yeah. James Hillier needs, you know, a lot of time for James, a lot of time for all the riders. I love them all my mates, and everybody's different, you know, different characters. And I like James to bits, and you know, he needs something else to motivate him again. He's been there 10 years. He got the full blessing of Pete and Bournemouth to go that way, and it just opened the door for me. You know, I'm like, I'm in. You know what I mean? So it was sort of meant to be, if you like, and you know, it's a new chapter. It's you know, a Kawasaki, a BMW. I think they're very, very similar in pace, power, you know, speed, and you know, they're all the same. You know, bikes are a bike. They've got 2 wheels, and you know, we'll figure it out. You know, we'll figure out how to make it work, and it's an open book with them. You know, we can go testing. We can do what we want. We can go to Spain next week if we want. You know, we'll just chuck the bike in and go. So. Yeah. It just at the minute it's good, and you know, Pete's never missed a payment for any of his riders, so I'm not worried about that now. We'll just crack on and enjoy it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, I've come back from a bad injury and done okay, and take a bow out of the sport and do something else. Yes. Well, I won't do something else. I'll be involved in motorbikes. It's my passion. Spot on.
And just go back to a TT for a bit. I've been in a few of your chat shows and stuff. Know that is it MJK sporting events.
Meek Spake.
Yeah, and a story you recited about the year that we lost DJ at the TT, and of how close you were to being in that accident.
Not far.
And did you ever get to meet the lady that like sort of warned you?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean, for the people that don't know the story.
Yeah, the as I was steaming down towards Crosby, you know, it's flat in top approach, and the yellow flags are out, but yellow flags can mean anything really. You know, a marshal moving, or it could be anything. But you just sort of roll it a bit, but it wasn't waved.
Rolling at that speed is still what you're doing in there on that bike.
You're doing 185, weren't you? And
that's days. Rolling. You know what I mean? So that makes a difference.
I mean, you roll it a bit, but I mean, you could roll it to 120 and feel like you're going 20 mile an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it, you know, just at the corner of my eye, I saw a lady, and I just looked in sort of into the whites of her eyes, and she, you know, she'd seen the accident and was just waving it. She turned the jacket inside out because it had a red lining, and she was waving it. And at the inquest, she wasn't there. And I thought, inquest as well, by the way, they're a fucking waste of time. You know, that it's... I've lost my train of thought now. yeah, it was hard, you know. I just saw it. I thought, that's not right. That's not right. That. So I just rolled and I rolled, and I thought, you know, I'd just go around the corner and I didn't know, you know, Dave had gone down, but it was huge, you know. There was, stone wall was down, his bike had hit a telegraph pole was down. You know, there was rubble everywhere, and Dave was way up the road, and, you know, just laying on his back, looked like he was asleep, you know, nothing, you know, you hear people saying, oh, this happened, that happened, didn't, you know, it was just gone in a flash, you know. And I was just sat there in the road, and Ducati was like ticking over the factory FO2 thing. I was like, fuck, you know, there's no way through. And I just parked the bike on the wall, and I could hear bikes coming, you know, and the Big H were coming, there were Farquhar was coming, there were loads of us coming. So they're all stopping, and Jim just didn't quite figure it out. Jim Moody ended up going through all the debris. But Dave was a good mate, man, you know. Dave was godfather to my son. Ewan. He got on really, really, sort of, we all got on really, really well. Back to the Super Teens days in '91, and sort of our paths went along. He's went a little bit, maybe a bit higher than me, with Superbike earlier than me. But Dave he won 9 TTs in 3 years. You know, he did double, treble. But raised the bar, like, he was unreal. You know,
He was a game changer.
I never understood why he did it, but he used to just tighten the screw on everybody on purpose, I thought. But not in an offensive way, Dave. You could never be offensive. He was never offensive, sort of arrogant or like that. He was just a big, daft, funny bloke, do you know what I mean? Always wanking all the time. He was into his porn a lot. But when Ewan was born, I said, oh, my dad. And he's like, oh, congrats and that. I was like, all right, sound. And he lived over in Yorkshire. And I put the phone down, and it felt like magic. He come through the door he'd obviously been an hour, because they were still stitching Becky up. And he come through the door with a KFC in his hand. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I got on. We all got on really well. And it was sad, you know. It taken away too soon, you know. And there's lots of stories about it. You know, there was definitely something on the track. I seen it. You know, the marshalling needed tidying up, but it's such a shame that, you know, if number 78 had crashed and died, you know, would the marshalling have got looked at like it does when, you know, you've got to ask yourself a question, why is the number one guy gone in you know, around there, you know? So it opened, not a can of worms, it needed to, and address a few things, and which were tidied up, but, you know, I don't know. Dave did his fastest lap of practice the lap before from a standing start, and, you know, I've got a picture somewhere. There's me, Moody, Archibald, David. We're all back shot of us all, and I was tried to get to the front to go with Archie, and Dave's a bit bigger than me, and he elbowed me out of the way. He gave me a bit of a nudge, and I always thought, if he hadn't nudged me out of the way, could it have been me who went down, you know? So I was the first man there, and it was. Yeah, it's something I'll never forget. You know, the smell of it, and it was odd. Engine smell and stuff.
Over the years, has any events such as that, has it ever made you consider, you know, continuing at the TT?
Well, that did. Yeah, that did straight away. I thought, fuck, again, do you know what I mean? And again, Pauline, his mum, gets on that bloody bike. You know, get on that bike. Dave wouldn't want you to stop. You know, I'll go win it for Dave. And I tried to win the race for Dave, and I didn't do it. I finished third and second. Archie won, and Archibald won the pair of them. TT was tough then. It wasn't quite the same then. It got a bit of a kicking in the balls everywhere, the TT. You know, the tabloids murdered it a bit in them days, you know, and Death Island and all this. And when Paul Phillips got it, and, you know, sort of I maybe got the mantle for it, you know, as the being the man, we spent a lot of time trying to
rebuild the reputation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the word, isn't it? You know, again, you know, I miss these riders. They're all my mates, you know. But, you know, it's not Death Island. It's
the opposite.
You know?
It's the opposite.
You know, this is what I try to say to them. You know, whenever anybody talks like that, I just won't answer them.
Damn right.
I just keep my job short. You know.
And you often call it the Island of Dreams, and that feeling that you get when you go over to the island, you still get that same sort of buzz and.
I do, yeah. It still just takes my breath away, the place, you know. I still jitters, if you want to call them.
That's what I said. Do you still shit yourself before you? Good man.
Fuck,
Thank God.
Do. Yeah, I
Good
do.
man.
Yeah, I've stood on the grid of World Endurance, World Superbike, World Supersport, Grand Prix, and when they're calling you forward to the start of a Superbike race, a 6-lapper, when them early numbers, you're like, fuck, you're number one, you look behind all the best road races in the world today. You just, it's hard.
Here's a question. I think we asked the same question to James Hillier. How do you go about picking your number? Can you pick your number? No, because I was very lucky last year to be seeded at 20.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you've got to keep climbing the ladder. But to be honest,
it's a bit. It's a bit. Is it smoke and mirrors? What's that word? It's a bit. Everybody's a bit coy about what numbers to have, and I always try. I was when I was leading man. I chose my number a bit.
I would love to go down number one because the things I would learn.
You learn a lot. Yeah.
But the thing is, Hillier did that for a few years. And then you lads came past him, and he
sharpened his
took
pencil a bit, didn't it?
Of course he did, and that's like, to be honest, if you can have a word with Paul Phillips, that'd be meant. Just kind right. I've had a word. Could you put Herbertson at number one? That'll be champion. Not
You never know.
Not for fame and glory, just a vicious ass whooping in the world of TT riding. That's what I want, and you've got to have that.
Number one's hard. It takes a bit. I know you're
of course
all giddy, but there's a lot of pressure on number one, and
but for me, it'll be a little.
I've seen people, looking over the shoulders, and they start running offline, and you still got to be concentrate on what you're doing and hit all the spots, and you see. I've been number 3s and 4s, and people just can't handle it. I went away at number 1 in 1999. On the 500 a long time ago, number 1 on 500 Honda, and again, can you choose your numbers? Yeah, there's a bit of leaning going on from teams and bosses and riders and stuff, and I didn't like it. I shipped myself number 1.
You see, saying that in the classic TT, I wouldn't want to go down at number 1.
No.
Because without blowing my own trumpet, which never happens on this show, I feel like I can win those races. And I wouldn't want to go down like you were Rossi beforehand. You need that rabbit to chase. You wouldn't experience because you've never done a time trial. Is that fair to say, Chrissy? Because you sod your rabbits. You want to be at the front and stay at the front.
I used to like to try and chase somebody down at a TT. I used to try.
It's a psychological boost.
But I always
isn't it?
used to try and throw somebody in who I thought wouldn't catch me behind me, and I know.
Well, that's so psychological.
I wouldn't chuck any names in because I was like. I like space around me. Yeah. I don't like mass start road races.
I don't mind going behind you, John. If you want to.
That was actually one of our questions that was sent. We were on like a Patreon page, and we had a question from a guy called Mark Power, and he was asking about the Ulster Grand Prix. Obviously, he did a few years, but then haven't been there for a while. What was it? Is it just that the fact you don't like the mass start, or?
Do you know what? I love racing the Ulster Grand Prix. I went there in 2000 and do you know when did I go first time? 3 on a Yamaha, and again a bit of a last minute thing. Went with Jim Moody. Me and Jim went on our own. I rode a little 600 Yamaha. Then I came back year after on the Hawk Kawasaki in 04 and ended up running right at the front. But it was just, do you know what I don't like? I'll hold my hand up. I don't like racing in the wet on the roads, right? I don't mind anywhere on a short circuit. I'll ever do anywhere. But road racing, I'm the first man to hold my hand up. And I don't want to,
There's no wrong with that. There's no wrong with that. You know what I mean?
I know, but it's embarrassing at times. Sometimes, you want to come for start money, wanker and all that. I've had it all.
You come for the dry weather, man.
But there's been a few times there at the Ulster Grand Prix where, I've been in positions where I've not wanted to be and not felt comfortable and parked it up. And it's no gun to my head. But there's been other times, again, blow wind up my ass again. I was the first man to do 130 mile an hour on there in qualifying pole in 2006. 131.7 in 2007. Loved the place. When it's dry, wheel to wheel with the top road race in the world, best track ever. Not as good as a TT. TT's the best track. End of story. But a great, great track. It's beautiful. It's flat. It's got all the ups, downs, cambers. Great, but 2011 I had a bit of a fallout with the organizer, and it upset me. It did upset me, the little fallout.
Are you upset to see it go though this year? As far as for road racing?
Yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe a meeting like that Ulster Grand Prix is gonna go.
Do you reckon it'll ever come back like the Oliver's
I think
Mount?
so. I think it will. I think somebody will step in and run it, and that's one thing with me. I don't understand. That side
the
of
politics.
sell
your ranch, buy the Ulster.
But I couldn't run a race. I'm not clever enough. You know what I mean? I'm just a simple lad from up north. Nearly up north. You're a bit further up north.
Good man. But no, you're sad to see
So,
the Ulster go.
I'm sad to see it go. I've had some great memories, good rides around there. I've seen some amazing rides around there. I've been in some fantastic wheel-to-wheel stuff at lap record breaking space, and I can't believe it's gone. I don't understand. I've heard all sorts of stories. I don't know if it. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to quote me because I'm gonna say it, but why? If this is true, why won't people pay a tenner to go and watch the best ride races in the world?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Like,
You,
I think
you buy a packet of fags, you buy 2 beers, you buy a burger, I don't know what it is. £10, £15,
I think one of the big
does it
issues
matter?
is they've been really unlucky with the weather over the past few years. So where they would usually get like a really good turnout, if it's pissing down, the interests.
Yeah, but I blame the news. Everything's yellow weather warnings, all this fucking batten down the hatches. Every hurricane ball bags come in. Not half the time. It's not that bad, is it?
Now, what was interesting, we've just come from Jab Burnicles, and when you look at old photos, like the old Northwest 200 photos, the old Ulster, the old TT, and you look at the volume of people that watch racing back then. Now, what, in your opinion, what do you think? Well, in my opinion, it's television. I don't know what that what's happened to motorcycle racing in your opinion?
On the telly. If you're live streaming it, you can watch it live on the box. And
people are bloody lazy now.
They open the curtains and go, forget it, But I just don't.
There must be some way of getting it back.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Hickey, Harrison.
The racing was mega there this year as well, wasn't it? With Hickey.
Magic. 136, whatever.
Jesus.
All the racing. They got all the racing in, even though the weather was a bit sketchy on Saturday. So, and there's no way you can't stand on the side of that road somewhere up through, Wheelers or up that way, where lads are. The best road racers have got the knee on the tarmac, committed like that, and if that's not 10, 20 quid for getting out of bed, we're in trouble. We are in trouble.
You're not wrong.
I don't know what to say.
When you were talking about Hickey's lap there, now the good thing about the TT is we can buy onboard laps and we can study and watch it. Have you had a look at that 135 lap?
Yeah.
Now, what can you? Thing is, John, you're quicker than me, a lot quicker than me. Now, what can you pick away
Not
at that?
last year in 600 race. Had
Yes.
some stick over that.
Sorry, John, but but anyway. So, what can you see that 135 lap? Oh, now, no.
I've watched it.
You've watched it. Now, can you see it now? You've got new bike, new team. You've got to have the pieces in the puzzle and everything. But can you actually, as a rider, can you see that lap?
Do you know? I've watched it, and sensational lap. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's everything I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I've watched my lap, my 1327, slowing down for pits. And if I went straight through start and finish, it'd be 1335.
Yeah.
Like Higgins was a flying lap. I've got to fight my corner all the time. Keep my confidence up, and I don't see him doing a right lot different to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's on. It's on. There's a couple of pictures of him. He's a bit wider. He's running a bit more road, and he reminds me of David Jeffries a little bit. He's really, really confident in himself. He's really, really in his head. He's strong, and it's probably a little bit where I was in 2006, 2007, and I walked onto that grid. No, even though I never said it, I was like, nobody's going to beat me today.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's in that lovely little sweet spot where he's just lifted the bar and he's just in a rhythm, and I'll probably get slaughtered again for saying it, but it's sometimes easy, it comes naturally, it did for me. But
that's interesting to hear, because obviously your lap speeds, they always say your fastest lap comes from you. It does for me. I come in and go, how the hell did I do that lap? And then you'll go out blowing out your bloody bagpipe, going, that's a 140. Move over, Hickman. You know what I mean? And then
I've done it. I did it in 07 in practice. Beautiful night one night. I said to her, I'm going to do 130 tonight. I did 29.4 or something. I've come in. I was like, what was that? Yeah, and she went, you 29.4. I went, ooh,
Yeah, you did. It's horrible, isn't it?
You can't. You just got to let it come. You've got to. A lot of people, there isn't a handbook. You don't get a handbook, TT handbook, and you go, that's how you do it. You steer your own ship, and
see, this is good to hear. Like I say, John, big fan. I'm not licking your ass, yeah. But the thing is, you're watching the lap, going, like, it's doable. You know what I mean?
It is
But
doable,
things have got to come together, and it's just at that right time. So that's good to hear, and you've got to hear yourself saying that, and you think, well, it's
Well, it's like the perfect storm, isn't it? Of
course it is,
everything's got to be. Everything has to be. All the dots have got to line up. Or,
Yes.
You know, and it did. It did. You know, it was just. It's what it wants. What the TT wants. You know, we want to see the big times. We want to see these big lap times. Everybody loved it. I watched it. I was watching at Braille, and I was glued to the radio, and I was on my phone watching the sectors, and some dickheads going rah 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 rah, fucking whittering in my ear. I said, mate,
shut up.
I said, you're just about to see something fucking special, mate. I said, just concentrate on what's going on. You know, I was blown away by it. You know, I thought, wow, that was fucking sensational. I doffed my hat, to Hickey. And you're a bit frustrated. You think, fuck, you sat there with injury and that. But, beautiful weather, awesome practice, doing BSB, he's fit, he's strong. Only takes one thing, a little slip off at Alton, you've cracked your collarbone, and you're just always one step behind the ball. Everything is to be absolutely perfect, and it just was perfect. Yeah. It was a perfect lap, perfect everything, and that's what happens when it all comes together. It's you just see something really, really special, and Dean winning the senior as well. I chuffed to bits for him. Yeah, great story. Proper amateur, boxed his way to the top. Through whatever it needed to take, not the most natural guy in the world, but
he's there.
He's done it. He has done it, and good. Good luck to him. It's a good story. It's good to see it. Shit when just same old happens, isn't it? Things have to move on all the time. So cool.
Now we've got a few quick fire questions for you.
No dwelling. Just off the cuff.
Yeah,
go
just
for it.
Off the top of your head. So you're organising a lads' night out. Which 3 lads from the racing world would you pick?
Chrissy Rouse.
Can they be gone?
Past the present, yeah.
David Jeffries, Joy Dunlop, James Hillier.
Spot on. Next one.
No, go for it. You go for it.
All right. So, what favourite year of racing?
1999.
99.
No, you keep going. You've got a better voice. I'm just showing the answers.
Posh, isn't it? It's posh, Chrissy.
Well, you can understand him.
Voice,
There you go.
Unassuming motorbike racer I've ever met in my life.
Assassin, man. Absolute assassin.
Silent assassin.
Do you have anything in particular on the bucket list that you want to tick off?
No, I don't think so. Do you know what? Done everything.
Fair play, man.
And if you could give your 18-year-old self one bit of advice, what would you say?
Train a bit harder, lose a bit, get the weight off.
Right. What's your biggest sort of nearly moment at the TT where it nearly all went wrong, but you've managed to save it?
Yeah, everyone's got them, man.
I took the front at Crosby.
Oh, shit.
2005 production race, yeah. Took the sole off my boot.
Holy
and it scared me that much I pulled out the race.
But there's always another time, which is fair enough, mate. Jeez.
Yeah, it brought a lot of memories back from Dave's crashing. I thought,
yeah,
fuck
same
me,
corner, yeah.
Big, long, whoa.
Good call, that one. What's your fondest memory of Joy?
Probably the last thing he said to me ever was, I went to his civic reception when he got the freedom of his borough. After he won his 3 at the TT, he leaned over in a car and said, "Thanks for coming, it means a lot."
Wow.
Which is a lot from Joey.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's a bad one to spin me because there's just so many memories, really. You know, I got a lot closer than a lot of people ever will. And I didn't realise this, but people around him said, "You have got a lot closer to Joey." And probably got that pissed off me. He had to speak to me. I was just gibbering away at him, but well, he's 48. He was 48 when he won 3. I'm 48 this year, so.
Oh, it's happening. It's happening.
My old
Exclusive on Chasing the Racing. It's happening.
Your least favourite teammate from your career?
Oh, hey, I like that one. Go on.
Michael Rutter.
Fair enough.
As a friend, it's all right. As a rider, he's a fucking pain in the ass.
Do you have
Proper little bromance,
When we're in
it's
world endurance, honestly. Just whinged and whinged.
Funny enough, he's our guest tomorrow.
Is
So,
it? Good.
no, I'm
Tell
joking.
him.
We'll have to get him on.
Do you have a favourite section of the TT course?
Section?
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's my corner, isn't it? McGuinness's.
That must have been surreal. Now, can you just get a phone call and just go, John, we've got a spare corner, son. Which one do you want?
They just said, yeah, we're going to name a corner after you. And,
That is
and
Massive honour, innit?
isn't it weird? Like you'd think, it'll be, it'll be this or that corner. And I went, and it just, sometimes you go with your first thing, and the first thing came that left, which is McGuinness's. Never see any spectators. And you wonder why I thought about it. And when I won my first TT, I passed Owen McNally coming out of there he was on a 250 Aprilia, I was on my 250 TSR. Owen was a good rider. You guys all remember Owen. He got killed at the Ulster Grand Prix in '99. But he was a good rider. I passed him, and I passed Adrian Archibald coming out of there on my R1 when I won my first Formula 1 race. And just lovely that little left through there. And yeah, it is pretty special. It's a bit weird because normally you've got to be gone, haven't you, to have a corner named after you. But to still be alive and have a corner is quite cool. Yeah. But when I'm gone, it's still going to be McGuinness's. So I'm just going to be part of the rest of the
legacy.
Yeah. So yeah.
Do you have any aspirations to run your own team in the future?
I'm available. Yeah.
I would love to say it. Do you know what? I would love to say yes. I would love to say. I want to say yes. But whether it'll materialise, probably not, because I'm not sharp enough. Do you know what I mean? Do you know? I know. So
But saying
it's
that,
not.
you know that you know the right people.
But you got to order this, and you've got to have that in stock, and you've forgotten to do this, or van's not insured, or I'm just, that's.
So
I want to be massively involved in bikes, which I will be. But
Have you ever thought about like a heavy sponsorship? Not say turn up with the full McGuinness outfit. Like if someone could run on their fairing, McGuinness Racing, and it was simple as that. Like you say, what you're doing with the tri options, turn up in a van.
Could do.
You know what I mean? Like that. No, I'm just. Would that not tickle your fancy?
it does,
Like pick someone that you want to run and go, I'm going to help you out.
That's the key word. What you just said. Pick somebody I want to run.
Oh well.
Not you. Not anybody. I just
Great interview, John. Piss off.
I don't.
Hey, the world's your oyster.
I
You can
don't
do it.
know. I've always shied away a little bit with that, with the TT, especially the TT. Again, a bit before your time, but some of the listeners might remember Gus Scott. He was top journalist, was Gus, and a very, very good rider. And he got killed in the senior TT, minding his own business, going through Kurt Michael, and Marshall walked out, and the pair of them was killed. So, but I was the last. He was umming and ahhing about doing it, and I was the last, push. He come to me, shall I do it? Yeah, do it. I'll do it then. You know what I mean? Then he got killed, and I felt responsible for it. I know it's not my fault, but I remember spraying the champagne, so I won the race, blah, blah, blah. So I come down, Gus got killed. I was like, fuck, I just dragged it all. I'm just thinking if I'd have said, oh, well, maybe not, he'd still be here, wouldn't I don't know. But it's just...
You can't think like that, but I know
what you're saying.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I love to see kids like Davey Todd, a lot of time for Davey. Davey rings me up, we speak to him. I'd love to see that kid, and yourself, Dom. I'm not saying we're all piss taken apart, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
No, I like it. I like the youngsters, but they've just got to carve their own little path.
Of course, because it's good to see on social media that you and Davey, and it's that mentor. We discussed that early on. Now you didn't have that, so it's actually nice to see.
I don't want to see lads get hurt, and I want to see.
Of course you don't.
I want to see progress and be strong, and drive it forward and make a living out of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I
made a living out of it, but fucking other lads don't. They get shafted every left, right, and centre, and I just don't understand it half the time. But I would like to run a team. I really would, but I'm just. She's laughing in the background.
Well, I'm not being funny. You've just been signed by Bournemouth Kawasaki. You've got years and years and years left before you make these decisions. We're picking away. We're picking away.
I hate getting older.
It's a level, man.
But
It's not an age.
I would honestly, my passion is motorbike racing. I'll watch a speedway match. I'll watch a trial. I'll watch a motocross. I like it. And if I can just give one thing to one person at the TT or something like that keeps them safe or gets them a 10th here, a 10th there. You know, sometimes it's too much. You know, too much information. You know, like Glenn Irwin's going now. You just think, fuck, you know, but brilliant. You know, fantastic, but you know, it's going to be tough when. You know, like you'll come past him in practice. You blow him.
God, I hope so.
Well, you will. So, you know, Dominic, you're going to pass him in practice, or possibly, or going to go faster than him, and he's going to be pulling his hair out. You know, he's got to control his aggression. He's got to understand that you've got more experience down there. You know, if you went to Druid Zepin at Brands Hatch, I'd have a tenner on Glen all day. You know, but but going through Crosby at 180 mile an hour, I'd have a tenner on you. But you know, it's what it needs. You know, and you know the Ulster's gone. The Irish racing's falling by the wayside. There's nobody coming out. You know that Adam McLean was looking all right. I don't know where he is with his injury and stuff. But other than Adam, there's not a right lot of coming out of Ireland, is there? And it was always real strong. And you know, so I don't know. I'm waffling on a bit now, but you know what I mean. There's just need to keep the wheels turning for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And just before we wrap up, like obviously these days we've spoke about the chat shows that you're doing around the country, and I've just started reading Michael Rutter's book actually, which you do the foreword for, which is quite amusing. And I'm seeing you all over MCN at the moment, your own column. What else are you up to?
It's cool. Yeah, Motorcycle News doing my own column. It's a hard one as an MCN column because you just want to get the knife in a bit and start turning it, but
why not? People
I have
love
to
it.
sit on the
Just
fence
commit.
a bit half the
Why
time.
not?
A few little nibbles and that, but I don't know. I like, you know, I enjoy it. I enjoy my column. I enjoy the chat shows. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy travelling around. You know, we've been to some all over the country with our chat shows with Mick and Jamie, and the ones with Michael are quite cool. Me and Michael have a love-hate relationship. You know, like I said,
the banter on the Twitter and everything.
He just, you know, we're two different people. You know, he's, you know, when I worked with him in World Endurance, it was just, it can be miserable. You know, knock the life out of you a little bit sometimes. But very successful. Me and him are two days apart in age. You know, he's 2 days younger than me. You know, we're both still current, doing all right. You know, so long may it continue. Really, he's still a fast old bastard, like, you know. But he won Macau, you know, and RCV. You know, he's bringing more to the party. You know, he still brings bits of the party. You know,
he's got
current
his team,
superstar champions around his team. So yeah, you know, great to see. But yeah, so we're busy here, really. You know, we've got Goodwood. We'll do the Goodwood events. We'll pick and choose. Classic TT on the partner with Roger. And you know.
Right, quickly touching back on the Norton thing. And what I mean by this, I think, you know, this Norton burnout thing he did, I honestly believe you should do, like, it would be great. Obviously, I'll have to run it past the wife first. But, like, imagine a John McGuinness. I'm planting the seed with people, but imagine the concept of a John McGuinness ranch version. It'd be like the Pikey X Games. It would be awesome. You know what I mean?
Be a good laugh on it. We'll all be full of drink, wouldn't we? We'd be flipping laid out all night.
You'd have to have bouncers at the bottom of the lane going, if you're a copper, you're not allowed in.
It won't be black tie job. It'll just be black hands and
yes, it'll be
oily hands. I don't know. Like I say, I love that Norton burnout. Great.
It was
crack.
mint crack,
Great
like
crack, you know,
mint crack.
ripping round his pad and, you know, a few beers and a bit of dinner at his function stuff. And you know, it's sad that it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
That's it. But you know, it is what it is. You know, but you know, no.
Onwards and upwards, we're having a John McGuinness version of it. Get in.
Yeah, we'll have some of that. Yeah, we'll make a plan. We've got we're not neighbours, so it won't matter.
Hey, all done. Rebecca in the background here. She's up for it. We've got confirmed tickets online on johnmcguinness.com.
If you bring the gin, she'll be at it.
He's sponsored by a gin company. You can bring the gin, Chrissy. There you are.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's
alcohol and motorbikes.
You know,
Living the dream.
The Massingbird Monday Kawasaki, it's like they're sponsoring Team Green. I don't know if they're involved with the Bournemouth job, but one of their companies is a gin company, so they do gin, steak, cool milk,
barbecue.
loads of stuff,
Okay, yeah. Is that cool milk fella's involved with all the
yes,
Kawasaki's in the UK, apart from us?
Yeah, well,
right then.
Yeah, apart from the Bournemouth thing.
Right,
Get on the phone with them, John.
Yeah, I don't think he's a TT fan. I think.
right, okay. Oh, I'm not sure. He's sponsoring like literally the whole Kawasaki
whole Kawasaki
job,
effort for British. Yeah,
and then he does all the mini bikes and everything as well.
He lives next to Cadwell, doesn't he?
Yes, the Lincolnshire
Yeah.
estate, South Hornsby estate or something. But yeah,
How's your job anyway? Can I ask you a question? Are your injuries and that? Didn't you bust your wrist last year? Or
yeah,
something?
bust my shoulder. My wrist was a few years ago, so dislocated my shoulder a few times. But yeah, had my operation, and I'm pretty much at the end of my rehab now, so ready for the
Need a
season
bit of
ahead.
luck, you.
Yeah.
Need a bit of luck, don't you? Just keep it on its wheels. Score some
Yeah,
points,
well,
then build it from that.
from Knockhill this year, I sort of changed my attitude a little bit, and I finished every race from Knockhill. Had a consistent sort of end of the season, few podiums, got my race win at the end of the year.
I was about to say, I think we mentioned this on nearly every pod. No, he
Oh,
hasn't had. Yeah, wait.
Yeah, no, I
he
need to get
hasn't-
this in.
I
Come
know,
on.
no, definitely. He hadn't had a single race crash all season. Everything's just been DNFs, like mechanicals and everything. You know, that's some go in that mind. You know what I mean? So
It's good
there
to
you go.
see.
But like he says, you need to repeat that, keep it on the wheels, and
That's it.
win a
And
championship.
It'll be brilliant. Like I speak for me and Dom, but I speak for thousands and thousands of bike fans to say, like, we're all really looking forward to next year. You know, we want to see that mojo back, which I'm 100% sure. You know, I can, be just so much better. Yeah, to see you back there. And
crossed, mate.
yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And obviously having your BSB as well out in the Ducatis, like every other weekend, it'll be mega. And I just want to say a absolutely massive thank you for having us here at your family home and letting us interview you today. Massive honour
Saturday
for
night,
us.
double time, innit? Pleasure, boys.
Right, we're
honestly.
going. Pull the plug, Chrissy. We're
No,
like,
honestly, it's a pleasure, honestly.
thank you
My
very
pleasure,
much,
guys.
John. Cheers.
Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
So,
Rebecca.
thanks very much, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.